What's up, All-Inners, and welcome to another episode of the All-In Podcast, a podcast for casual leaguers. I'm the League Dad, of course, and I'm joined by Kevin, Mitchell, and yes, Alistair is back. So we are back in full force of the All-In crew, and we're here to recap all of this past week's action. And you know what? To me, I'm a happy man because this is the first time I've been able to believe once again in my TSM, and I am so happy, although unexpectedly, that they were able to triumph over C9. Now, I don't know about you, Kevin, because you are a Team Liquid fan, but I know Mitchell's pretty happy because FlyQuest happened to triumph over Team Liquid, which to me was unexpected. So I want to go to you first, Kevin. What were your thoughts just overall in the games? You could talk about both of them, but I know you're a Team Liquid fan, so whatever you want to say out there, man, just your initial emotions to reactions to this past week.
It was a roller coaster. I think most of the roller coaster was a down. Just like a, oh god, because even in the other game Liquid won, like they played okay and stuff, but it wasn't an amazing showing. I think there were a few games where the drafts were just like like the Kog'Maw conceptually was a good draft. Like I thought it was a good draft, but then I didn't think Jensen would get outplayed that hard by PoE. I think PoE popped off this series. He plays extremely well. So did Turtle in some of the games, but I was talking with Mitchell and during while we were watching the games, and I will say as a Liquid fan, I just feel validated to see that tactical game 4. It just like was one of the most exciting. And for me, I literally was yelling out. I was like, "Holy expletives everywhere!" I was like, I was in a 10-man watch party, and we were just yelling. We're like, "Wait, hold up a minute! You can't just do that." Obviously, at the end of the day, when all the hype's gone and stuff, there was definitely misplays from FlyQuest side, like itemization, all that. But it's just magical moments like that where you're just like...
That's what makes it great, because those are playoff moments. That's like, this is, if you had questions about whether he was really Rookie of the Year, I don't think anybody did, but he definitely was Rookie of the Year because, I mean, he showed how good he really was in that game. And, in a moment like that.
I'm just so sick of seeing I'm just so sick of seeing professional players just run back into the fountain and just let the game in because they just don't want to lose KDA or something. Like, yes, it's a lost game probably, but this man just walked into a Fed Orianna and he was like, "All right, you're not gonna hit me." And I was like,
what do you got to lose, right? All right. Well, I mean, now I want to go to the flip side because you all know that Mitchell is our, that's the biggest cheerleader of FlyQuest right there. And so, Mitchell, I got to get your thoughts and reactions on that series, man.
I never doubted them. Not for a single bit. They were, it was looking a little sketchy. When it went to Game 5, I was kind of like, oh god, FlyQuest, please don't randomly throw this in Game 5. Because they kind of just threw in Game 4, honestly. Like, with every great play comes a mistake from the other side, and that, like, it wasn't just the base defense from Tactical. It was like 3 other team fights afterwards that FlyQuest like kind of didn't play very well, and Tactical popped off. And then Game 2, if you guys remember, like FlyQuest was kind of just running it down over and over again, playing Kha'Zix. Azir was just going in, flying in like a monkey. So I was nervous the whole time, but. It just kind of feels good because, they're, the underdog team, right? No one ever believes them. And it definitely does feel like they were just, the better team. And their biggest opponent was themselves. Like, them throwing was actually their biggest opponent rather than, getting beaten by strategy in any way. So, I felt kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really a good point. That I do typically, I've always felt like they were an underdog because I just wasn't I was impressed, but I was not convinced that they were a championship caliber team. But they definitely proved me wrong, not just when they played C9, but then when they played Team Liquid. They are definitely showing that they deserve to be up there. And I'm really surprised. Alistair, you haven't been on the show in a couple of weeks, so I know your team, the Golden Guardians, are not here anymore, but what do you think of the game so far and how everything's ended up?
Well, I'll stick to this week. I guess if we're sticking with Liquid FlyQuest, see, I'm not sure. I feel like internationally, I think obviously I don't think any NA teams getting out of Worlds. I feel like Liquid is probably still the better team, but FlyQuest just has some way of beating them because they always just seem to. I could
Yeah.
be wrong, but that's just how it seems to me.
Could be. I mean,
It's like,
sometimes it's stylistic wise, but I mean, either
Yeah.
way, there's several things that can happen. Any given day, some team can beat another team, but the thing is, the results always, that's what matters in
It's
the
consistent.
end. Yeah, it's consistent, and FlyQuest definitely did pull out the win there, and they're guaranteed a finals again for the second split, being in the finals, and that's really awesome. I mean, congratulations to them. It definitely has shown that they are not a fluke. They can compete with the best of them, and here they are just waiting for the victor of TSM and Team Liquid on Saturday. But before we do that and get into those matches, I do want to talk a little bit about C9, because now that TSM has beat C9 is not in Worlds. And, we talked about this, and this has kind of been a meme up to this point, but Spring Split doesn't matter. And as good as C9 was, I mean, their last split and the Spring Split was just amazing. They had a crazy run, and they just looked untouchable. And just within maybe the last half of Summer Split, they just collapsed. And call it bad timing or whatever, but it just seems like all of that hard work and all of those victories that they strung together in the Spring Split now really doesn't count for anything because their season is over. And, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. This format, this whole idea of spring doesn't matter. And we didn't have MSI, so that kind of makes it even, you feel it more because there was nothing for them to show for that Spring Split. But I just feel bad for them in a sense that, yes, I don't think they're a top 3 team at this moment, but they were good. And so I kind of want to get your thoughts on the whole thing. Mitchell, let me start with you. What are your thoughts on, C9 not getting into Worlds, even though they were good for probably about 75% of this year?
Well, I mean, they lost, right? They lost a lot, actually. So I don't think they deserve to go to Worlds, of course, at all. It is kind of sad, they won Spring Split and they don't get rewarded by that, right? They don't get to championship points. If this was any other year, they would just auto-qualify for Worlds. They would be our second seed this year. And it would kind of feel bad considering 100 Thieves about 2 years ago, they got Spring Finals and then they lost 2 best of 5s in summer and still got to go to Worlds. And everyone's kind of what? They just auto-qualified. None of their series really mattered, right? And that's kind of what it would have felt like if Cloud9 went. But then at the same time, it's well, what's the point of Spring Split anyways? Spring Split doesn't really matter then. So what are we fighting for in that first half, except to go to MSI, I guess, which didn't happen. So I'm kind of glad Cloud9's not going because they're playing like crap and they should be punished for it. Other teams are playing better and they should be rewarded. They lost 2 best of 5s against the other 2 better teams, right? FlyQuest and TSM. So yeah, they're out. I mean, they're just not even in the meta, right? They're playing Ezreal Yuumi, they're not playing Caitlyn. It's all bad. So I'm glad they're gone.
Yeah, I mean,
what's happening with Sven?
Exactly. What's happening with Sven, and I think it does matter in a sense that when you go into Worlds, wouldn't you rather have the best 3 teams that are the best right then and there? Because C9 was good. Don't get me wrong, they had an awesome split in the spring. And if we had MSI, they would have been our representatives. It would have been great, but it sucks that we didn't have that. They didn't get to kind of have a showing or a reward for what they did. But I'm kind of on the same boat as, I want the 3 best teams of North America now to represent us in Worlds. So let me get your thoughts, Alistair and Kevin. What you think about that?
You go ahead.
Yeah, so as far as it goes, I'm not the biggest C9 fan, at the end of the day. But I do think that they do still kind of deserve to go in the sense that that level of dominance for that long, if this was any other sport, most sports an NFL season just goes on I actually don't know NFL that well. MLB goes on for a long time. At the end, they do their playoffs. So you could have had a super hot beginning, then you kind of tapered off at the end, but you still get to go to playoffs, which is essentially the World, going towards the World Series. So in that analogy, I really think that our format should just be an all split long season. Like I
Mhm.
don't know why we have splits anymore. Like you could
Yeah.
literally do the all split long season, and sure, you can still keep MSI, just put in the middle.
Hmm.
At the mid-season standings, if you're the number 1 team, you get to go. Sick.
Yeah.
But your wins in the first half should still count as something, because like, why else are you practicing doing them?
What's the
it's not
point?
even
Yeah.
because our sport, our esport, is not even like one where you can say like, oh, you're just honing your skills, because the patches still change up. So yes, you're honing your teamwork, sure, but the patches will change up and the game will completely shift. Maybe AD carries become worthless in like 3 more patches. Maybe they've always been worthless. It depends on who you ask. The point is like, it sucks for C9. They don't deserve to go this time around, but there should be a system that doesn't invalidate a whole split. I do think MSI, if it would happen, would have made this a lot less of a heavy blow. But
Oh yeah.
at the
I
end of
agree
the
with
day,
that.
like C9 is honestly like the 5th best team or the 4th,
Yeah.
depending on who they play against, and that's not someone I want to have at the hardest worlds ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where they put more seeds for the best 2 teams. Like this is going to be a
Mhm.
really rough year. We
Yeah.
need to have our best people to go. So
Yeah. Okay.
it sucks, but hopefully C9 fans recover.
Yeah.
They're gonna lose a lot of bandwagoners though, so it's gonna be fun.
I mean, how do you feel about it, Alistair? Are you kind of on the? Do you agree with Kevin or?
Yeah, I'm pretty much everything Kevin said. I'm in agreement with.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like, I like what you said about Kevin about having maybe just a whole one big split, and you have the middle. MSI is kind of like a break, quote unquote. If you think about it, that's the NBA does this. I don't know if there's another sport that does it, but I know for sure the NBA does this. They have a long season, not necessarily in the middle, but I would say about 60% of the way through, maybe a little bit more. They have, the All-Star break, which is just, an event and a weekend where they take a break. There's no games, but, the top stars are voted in to play this one kind of not serious game where they just it's more of just a fun game between the East and the West, and they have like all their superstars, and it's just fun to watch. There's a dunk contest, 3-point contest, kind of just a fun time. And then they come back, and then everyone knows, like if you're an NBA fan, you kind of know that after the All-Star break, oh, it's serious now, because now it's like people are playing for real, like people are trying to get good seeding for playoffs. And I feel like that kind of format could work in a sense with the LCS, because it wouldn't negate those early games. I mean, in the NBA, they definitely don't play as hard in the first half of that season, but it still counts. It still matters when it comes crunch time. Like, you're going to want those wins because it's going to make a difference, in your playoff seeding. And at the same time, it's a long season. You have time to experiment. You have early season to kind of try different rotations, try different strategies. And then by that time, after All-Star break, hopefully everything has been honed down, and now you're playing for real, and people kind of understand, like, okay, this is what we're focusing in on. And I would like to see that for the LCS, because if you think about it, and Alistair, I think you made a good point to this. I think you also said in our Discord too, Kevin. Actually, maybe all of you did. But the meta right now doesn't seem to fit C9 style, and or they have not adjusted to the meta. Whereas in the beginning of the spring split, and even the whole spring split, it did. Maybe the meta fit them more, fit their play style more. And that's just a matter of like, maybe TSM didn't fit the meta back then, but now they are now. And it's kind of unfair in a sense where if now the timing just happens to fit a team better now, like, is that really fair to C9? I'm not trying to give them too much of a net here, but, just to kind of sympathize or empathize with them, it just might be a crappy time in the meta for their style, their type of play. And they just couldn't adjust quick enough to, make it into Worlds. And so, I would like that to be, something to be considered. I mean, what do you think about it, Mitchell?
There's a part of League of Legends where the game is always changing constantly, and something that you need to be able to do as a consistent team, and I think that's very important going to Worlds, is you need to be able to adapt to the meta. Like, you need to be able to change your play style and play what's good on that patch. Like, that's been the game for years. Like, if you're not good on this patch, well, you're worthless. Like, you need to be able to get with the times, play the new picks, learn new champions, right? Like, the new champions are always busted. The patch notes, they always, like, they push a buff. You need to play that champion, right? Like, it's totally egregious that Cloud9 is not playing Caitlyn or Ashe. Like, they waited until their elimination game, their last playoff game, to play Ashe. And they still banned Caitlyn on blue side and didn't first pick it ever. So, yeah, I think it sucks. It's like kind of like unlucky, I guess, that like, you know, if you look at FPX right now, right, it's not their meta either. Like, FPX isn't happy because, you know, they didn't make it to Worlds. They're struggling, right? But last year it was perfectly their meta. And it's kind of like a roll of the dice RNG a little bit, but I do think there's some merit to, you just need to be able to adapt. And if you can't, well, you're just not playing the right game.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And to some extent, I think people have known that, teams have known that really in order to be good, you have to be able to adapt because this game is always changing. And I'm thinking that, you know, even look at G2, you know, finally losing to Fnatic, but I mean, they're still good. They're still relevant. But at the same time, like if you're gonna stay good, like that is super important because eventually the game will change enough to where if you don't adapt your style or your champion pool to fit what's going on, you will eventually be dethroned. And I think that is something organizations will probably have to get better at. I mean, I think teams have gotten better at that already as far as being able to adapt and how quickly they can adapt. And I think what makes it hard is that like like in another sport, you have practice times where you can theoretically practice, but here we have scrims who, you know, again, scrims aren't always telling if a strategy or if a meta is, you know, going to work because it's scrims. Teams aren't really trying for real. And so it may dominate, but that might be because of several other factors. So it's hard for a team to get a true measure of if something is working until they hit the stage, until there's some weight to it. And so I do think there's a lot of maybe holes in teams trying to figure out this system that we're still in. It's never good. It's an unending puzzle that needs to be figured out. And I think that's what Medio said is the reason why he loves this game, is because you can never figure it out. It's never pinpointed. So for sure, it's got to be something where teams can adapt. Did you guys, Alistair, Kevin, have any last thoughts on this issue as far as C9s, the way the split is set, and you got any other thoughts on it?
I mean, it's kind of what I've been saying about Cloud9 for pretty much all year is they're playing one style. They're not changing it up.
Mm-hmm.
And Summer Split, they tried changing it and they can't really. Ezreal every game doesn't work anymore. Niski can't just play Galio every game. We've seen him on Orianna. We've seen him on Azir. We've seen him on Lucian. None of them looked even satisfying at any part.
Yeah.
Blabber on tanks, like, none of it just looks. They just don't look good.
Look good.
How good can you really be
Mm-hmm.
if you can only play one style?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
That's always been my issue.
I mean, think of like RNG, right? Their method of winning was protect Uzi, get Uzi fed, and win. You know, and
Yes, but they also played the new champions. They applied
True.
new strategies, but they didn't just play the exact same champions every game.
But what I'm saying is, with them, if you are sticking to your guns and saying we are only playing this strategy, you need to be an Uzi class player to be able to pull that off, because people already know it. They figured it out. You know, if you don't adjust and you're saying we're going all in on the strategy, you better be the best at that strategy like no other. And for what it's worth, I think that's acceptable. Like, I think if you're going to put your bets on that, you know, not adapting, then you just try to be the best that you can be on that strategy and try to counter, you know, any potential problems with what the meta is bringing. And so it may not always work, but at least it's something. It's a game plan. But I do agree that, you know, you just can't stay stagnant unless you're like, again, Uzi class world-class player. So yeah, anyways, let us know your thoughts on that. If you got any thoughts on it, definitely tweet us or send us an email, because we'd like to know, because I think it's an ongoing topic, especially after the split, that people will be talking about because of what's happened. And, you know, who knows how long with Corona things will get back to normal or not. So it could stay like this for a while and even into next year. So definitely let us know your thoughts. But right now, what I'd like to do is move into the preview of next week, or this week, I should say. And let's talk about TSM and Team Liquid, right? Because those are the two that are playing. They both Team TSM won, but Team Liquid lost, and so they'll be playing each other on Saturday to see who can go up against FlyQuest. But I'd like us to take what we saw from this previous week and then use that to kind of make our predictions going into this week. I know one thing I talked to you, Kevin, and you could talk more on this, is I loved seeing Evelynn in the jungle. And so I thought that was pretty cool. So Kevin, let me get your thoughts on just that champion or anything else that you saw. But I particularly liked the way teams used it. It's a great, obviously great tower diver. Lots of invades we were seeing with it, especially around Raptor. So give me your thoughts, man.
I mean, Evelyn's whole problem is she was bad dueling. Her dueling is insane now, or not insane. Like it's incredibly better than it used to be, and now it's like passable in certain matchups. And pro teams are using her well in the sense that she farms fairly quickly and she dives extremely easily. Like her dive is the most easy thing ever. If you can't execute an Evelynn dive, you're probably trolling. Which certain teams did do. To be fair, they did mess up.
They did.
But she's a very good. But I don't think we've seen like any Evelynn one trick level of like Evelynn play there. Like it looked like some of the players who were picking her were just because it was strong. So I don't think Broxah plays it, first of all, at least not to a level that I'd be comfortable watching.
No.
It's just not his style of character, and I don't think he understands it. I don't know how good Spico's is against Broxah. We'll have to see if he even picks it again. But I'm excited for it. We can get into it, but I don't feel great for Liquid in this matchup. It's kind of the trendings aren't in a good spot, but Liquid historically does well against TSM, so we'll see.
Yeah. Alistair, do you got any thoughts on this matchup or any of the teams in particular? I mean, from what you saw with Liquid or TSM.
I mean, I think it's definitely going to be. I think it's gonna be close, but I feel like I'm still gonna favor Team Liquid in it for the reason that I feel like top and jungle are fairly even, unless I mean Broken Blade could have another crazy pop off performance like he's had before, like that Aurelia game. I forget who it was against. Could have a game like that and just smash Impact, which is possible. I think Spica and Broxah are fairly even. I would give the bot advantage, like clearly to Team Liquid, and Jensen historically, like, well, for a while now has been the mid laner to neutralize Bjergsen, or at least go even with him. So I think just giving that, I would give it to Team Liquid, but I don't think we're gonna see a 3-0.
Okay, that's fair enough. Mitchell, what are your thoughts on these two teams?
It's pretty hard to tell. I'm actually kind of surprised how lost Team Liquid kind of looked. So I'm not really sure, honestly. Like Team Liquid, they pulled out some experimentation against their game against FlyQuest, and they did not look good on the games they experimented on, like with the Kog'Maw, the Zyra, the Jhin, and stuff. And then it was also kind of worrying because in Game 5 also, they had a very standard comp. They had Ornn, Azir, Ashe. They had Volibear. They had Bard. They had like some of their most picked champions in the whole split. And they didn't do what the Team Liquid thing does, right? Like FlyQuest all in on the early game with like Syndra and Jhin and stuff. And it was looking pretty doomed, like if FlyQuest didn't get ahead in the early game. But they did. And they closed out the game like super dominantly. So I don't know if that's like mental boom on the side of Team Liquid and they'll like shake it off, or if like you can actually exploit this team in the early game, because that was not a thing in the regular season at all. So if you can actually exploit Team Liquid in the early game, I'm actually pretty worried for them. Like I do think like it's gonna require Team Liquid to like just not get rolled over in the early game. Like they can't just sit back and do nothing. I think like the other teams have leveled up and they're not good enough to just sit back and do nothing. So TSM has been more aggressive. If they come up with a strong early game plan, I mean the mid game is always the problem, right? But if they can come up with a strong early game plan, I think TSM is feeling a bit favored in my opinion. But I mean, it's TSM, it's Team Liquid. Like, anything could freaking happen. Like, one team could run it while the other team smurfs for no reason. Nothing makes sense. It's 2020, guys. I don't know.
Yeah, 2020, man. Anything has, I mean, this year has just been poop. I'm just going to say it. I've said it before. I hate 2020. It's just crazy. But I do agree in a sense, like, okay, I'm trying not to get too like overexcited because I am a TSM fan, but I do kind of agree, with trying to be as, quote unquote unbiased here. But look, I think what it's really going to be is who can take a bigger snowball lead, right? Can it be the bot? Because obviously Team Liquid's favored bot lane, right? Top lane, I think that's going to be, we saw TSM try to get more carries, champs on Broken Blade, try to give him, some freedom, some room to operate there. We saw him on the Jax. We've seen him on some other champs where he's just not playing a tank, right? Or he's not just playing a weak side champion. And they've been letting bot lane be the weak side, And so I want to see, like, can they accomplish that goal of getting top lane snowballed enough, or at least in that top half of the map, while at the same time double if not getting smashed, and him being able to play more of a supportive role. I will admit, his Senna wasn't the worst thing in the world, although Senna is just OP at the moment anyways. Like, I mean, Senna's good no matter what, but I think, he's been playing the supportive role. So, I mean, what do you got to say to that, Mitchell?
Yeah, I actually, playoff impact has not been showing up, man. Like, where's playoff impact? The guy is kind of running it. Like, actually, just the whole top side of Team Liquid is kind of been non-existent. I mean, Broxah looks exactly the same he did in the regular season. He's not jungling. He's not ganking. He's completely invisible. The amount of times that it felt like he just kind of, like, did nothing in the early game and then died in his first team fight, like, it felt like that happened, like, 4 times during that series. Like, he just, like, did nothing. He dies at Rift Herald of Dragon. He's the first one to go, and he's like, all right, that's me, guys. That's Broxah. I'm out. Impact got caught out and was getting outplayed over and over again. I really felt like Jensen, while he didn't, like, lose the game, he wasn't winning the game. He's not, like, hard carrying like you expect Jensen to hard carry when you give him Orianna, like, or Azir. So, I mean, Tactical and Core JJ showed up. That's great and cool, but you need all 5 people to show up. So that's, yeah, I mean, I think top side for TSM right now is definitely favored. I mean, I don't know about Spica. He's just such a coin flip guy. I just have no idea about that guy. But Broken Blade and Bjergsen are looking way better now. Like,
yeah, I think, yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Well, because my food's going to be here soon, I'm going to just get this out of the way. Like,
yeah,
here's how it goes. Like, TSM look extremely good because Spica and their top side of the map just destroyed, like, the C9 team. But it was Cloud9. Like, they were not that great. TSM was having close games against Golden Guardians, and, I mean, Liquid literally 3-0'd them pretty easily. I think a lot of the weaknesses you're seeing in Jensen and especially Impact is because their jungler was non-existent. They got absolutely smashed by Santorin. Like, Santorin was playing one of the best of 5s I've ever seen this man jungle.
Yeah,
he's up 80 CS or 60 CS multiple games in a row, up levels, and I was like, so what is Liquid getting out of that? Oh, they're just bleeding out. Okay, great. Like, this man was literally invading at level 1 and, like, there was no answer. I was like, what's going on? So they're gonna VOD review that. It'll help with their later matchup, but, like, you're not gonna see Liquid look that weak like they did against FlyQuest because the jungle diff is not as big. Like, the Diffy and the Jiffy, Spica might have a game or two that he's gonna pop off, but, like, overall he's just not as intelligent yet or experienced yet as Santorin. So on that note, I think Liquid at 3-2 is gonna be close. It's gonna really make me hate myself the whole time I was watching it, but I can't bet on TSM versus Liquid in this current form with double being so much weaker.
I mean, that's fair enough. I think that's a good assessment as well. I think, for me, again, I have to go with the Bjergsen difference, man. This man is on fire, man. Like, I say top and bot are just going to neutralize themselves out. Now, what I am worried about is Core JJ having Core JJ moments. Like, that's what I'm worried about, because both him, if you look at that FlyQuest, like, first 2 games I thought was just beautiful to watch as far as supports. I mean, Ignar played well. I mean, Core JJ, I mean, for the first 1 or 2 games played really well, like Core JJ. And so I'm really anxious to see, like, obviously that bot differs for sure, but Core JJ, the support, making plays around the map, I think he is going to, really affect that early game if he can make some early plays somewhere. But overall, I think maybe top and bot might be neutralized on both sides. And for me, it's all about the Bjerg, man. And I'm just wondering if he'll be able to, just continue this amazing play he's been doing, because literally he is just on fire, man, on a mission. And so that my guess is that it's going to be 3-2 also, but TSM favor. I don't think it's going to be 3-1 or 3-0. Could be wrong, but I think the teams are close enough in, having strengths and weaknesses and kind of all the right counterpart places that I think it'll even itself out. And I think we'll have a banger of a game. 5 games, 3-2. Bjerg factor, they win by 1 game, and so that's my prediction. Alistair, what you got, man?
Well, I mean, I will say I see your Bjerg diff, and I'll raise you my Jat diff.
Oh,
but I will
like
also
it.
say that I feel like a lot of games, especially recently, aren't. It's not who's the better carry. A lot of the time, it feels like who's the bigger anchor
Okay.
on the team.
Who's the weak link?
And I mean, it does. A lot of the time, I mean, obviously, I can't really use game 4 because Liquid won that game. But I mean, even if he didn't make that play, Tactical was still having a really good game, but his top side was just inting him. So
Yeah, that's true.
a lot of the time it does. I mean, he wasn't having a spectacular game, but he was still having he wasn't doing poorly. I mean, look at most of Dignitas games. I mean, Johnson was still doing well, but
Sure.
solo lanes were just kind of useless, right?
Yeah. So
And
it's going
that's
to
why
be
I feel like a lot of these games
who's going to hold them down. Yeah, exactly. So who then do you think has the
that's what I
biggest?
feel.
Who has the biggest anchor then? TSM or Team Liquid?
Well, I would go. It would be between Impact and Double Lift. I would say those are the 2
Ooh.
anchors to look at,
Interesting.
because Impact this weekend looked terrible. He looked super heavy, and he just didn't look very useful. I mean, Broxa, I mean, he could still smite, and then I mean,
you got to give him
so
Lee Sin
you
though,
only have
so
to
he
do
can queue in
really
there. Queue in there and
Yeah.
smite. Well, so what do you got?
And-
do you think it's going to be close? Do you think it's 3-2, 3-1?
I do. I would say 3-2 Liquid.
Okay.
That is what I'll go with. But I do think, I mean, if Doublelift plays, here, I'll put it this way. I think if Doublelift plays the way he played last weekend, I will go 3-2. If he plays like the first series of TSM Golden Guardians, it might honestly just be a 3-0 again.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping that Doublelift has recognized, I mean, he was on Ash duty, but he played a lot of Senna this past weekend, and his Senna to me looked okay. Like, it wasn't as nearly as bad as it was we saw in spring. So I'm hoping maybe he can at least get Senna if they don't ban it out, or if, they don't pick it themselves, if Team Liquid doesn't, but we'll have to see. I don't think I actually got your number, Mitchell. So what's your number prediction for Team Liquid TSM?
My number?
Yeah, like your prediction number.
Yeah, that's a tough one, man. I don't want to give it because I don't know. It's a really hard question because they're both so inconsistent. Team Liquid, the supposedly very consistent team, is incredibly inconsistent now. Like, their consistency in that 5-game series was just so whack. Like, I would even argue that Broxa was the worst anchor than Impact. I mean, Impact did not play well, but Broxa was also playing terribly. And I don't think Doublelift played very bad against Cloud9. I thought he actually played pretty well. Not like the worst player. Honestly, weirdly, sad Liquid. Honestly, the worst player I felt like on TSM was probably Spica against Cloud9. Like, I remember he got Evelyn, and he got ahead, and he played really poorly. Like, he played his Evelyn really poorly against TSM. And then Blabber had his hand.
Or Biofast. I mean, he had a good series, but he's volatile as well.
All right. Well, I mean, I think it's going to be close either way. I don't know if so. Mitchell, are you refusing to give numbers, or are you going to give a number?
No, I'm gonna. Okay. I'm gonna even out. Okay. I feel like it's. I'm feeling the double lift anime protagonists. It's 3-2 TSM. It's 3-2 TSM. Sorry guys. He's coming back. He's beating his old team. He's been steadily improving. He was real dog shit early on, but his steadily improvements have been like pretty substantial. I think it's comeback time. I've doubted double lift for a whole year now. I'm ready to hop back on the train. Let's go.
Yeah, I think that's a good.
Caitlyn.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's about to, like, I wasn't sure if they were even going to be able, like, if Double Lift was even going to be able to have the chance to get revenge on his old team, because that's kind of the deal, right? He gets moved to another team, he gets revenge on his old team. So this might be it, and I can't wait to see that. That's another spicy storyline we didn't even touch, but you're absolutely right. I think this might be his chance to really shut down the naysayers, because I've been giving him a hard time too. I even said, didn't I say last split I thought he's going to retire? I might have to rethink that after 1 week, because they look pretty good, but we're still going to have to see what happens. But I do want us to look to FlyQuest, because they're obviously sitting pretty.
Hold up 1 second.
Uh-oh.
The coin has a hot take for us.
Oh gosh, here we go. I forgot about the coin because he wasn't there last week.
Coin is 3-0 Liquid.
Oh my. This coin, man. 3-0 Liquid. All right, I got a gripe to pick.
Let's go.
Oh my, Kevin's happy.
Team Liquid TL coin, bro. I don't know.
All right. Well, speaking of, before we go on to FlyQuest, because we do need to talk about FlyQuest, because they're sitting pretty up top. Our prediction. So you weren't here last week, Alistair, but Mitchell, you actually predicted the FlyQuest Team Liquid game perfectly. It was 3-2. You predicted Fly. Perfectly. I didn't see your prediction, but you did put it on Discord, right? Is that what you did?
Yeah, 3-1 TSM is what I said.
Oh, okay, all right. So me and Kevin both got that wrong because we picked TL. But the TSM C9 matchup, me and Kevin got it right. We predicted it 3-2 though, and Mitchell got it wrong predicting C9 3-2. But either way, it's just a recap there. But so now here's just a recap. Me and Mitchell here are saying TSM is going to win in 3-2. Kevin, you and Alistair are saying 3-2 Team Liquid, and the coin, for some idiotic reason, is saying 3-0 Team Liquid. We'll have to see. But let's move on to FlyQuest, right? And I'm going to let Mitchell talk here because he is the FlyQuest supporter. And look, FlyQuest has been amazing, man. Let's just start off by saying, let's give all the credit that's due. I know I have always had a hard time really believing and putting my faith in FlyQuest, but I think I have to stop now because I really do see this team coming together. I mean, Santorin, amazing. Solo in his own right is playing really well. Ignar, you guys know I've been on that Ignar train for the past few weeks. Wild Turtle, okay, he's not the old Wild Turtle. He flashed it forward a couple times this past week, didn't get much kills, but look, he's playing well as on his role, and Power of Evil is just playing like Power of Evil. So, Mitchell, give me your thoughts, and obviously I'm pretty sure you're saying that FlyQuest is going to win it all, but I want to know your thoughts on your team right now, why you think they're good, and if you think they'll beat, either a repeat of playing Team Liquid, or if you think they'll beat TSM and how good they are.
Yeah, it's a Diffie in the Jiffy, man. Like, Santorin is legit smurfing LCS. It's not even close. Like, I don't see any jungler doing anything that Santorin gets close to. The man has early game, mid game, late game pressure. He's got a champion Ocean. He plays all of the meta picks. He pulled out the Evelynn. It didn't look that great, but that's okay. But he's actually just such a hard carry. And when you have a really, really strong jungler alongside someone like Power of Evil, it's so hard to stop. The other teams don't have enough firepower to stop Santorin smurfing the early game and Power of Evil playing mid and late game fights really, really well. I said it earlier, and I'll say it again here because it is the thing that we were talking about. In the EG series, in the Cloud9 series, and once again in the TL series, it's their mid game that's the big problem. FlyQuest mid game is their problem. They always get ahead in the early game. They always have a bunch of advantageous fights. It's just they randomly throw in the mid and late game, and yeah, they're their own worst enemy. I just think they're clearly the best team. They're playing the best League of Legends. They just screw things up at the end, right?
So stylistically, then, who you think is actually a harder matchup for them, TSM or Team Liquid?
I do think they have a better matchup against Team Liquid. Team Liquid is very predictable. Their meta picks are just you know what they're gonna pick, right? And when they don't pick that, they don't look very good. You know. I do think TSM they're adapting. They're nothing like what they played in the regular season. With the addition of Biofrost and all their best of fives they played, they're playing very differently now. I would say they're playing like really, really top heavy, not so much mid focused as it was in the regular split. Like very top heavy, very jungle heavy. So I'm not really sure. I do think like it's actually still a decent matchup for FlyQuest because Santorin is a much better jungler than Spica. So I think it's still favorable. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think that's a good point. I mean, obviously FlyQuest has a lot of things going on, good for them. Kevin, did you have anything to add to the FlyQuest? I mean, what do you think about them sitting up top there? I mean, they obviously again have shown their weight, but are you on the hype train of FlyQuest yet, or because you have said before that they were a boring team when we were talking about teams before. So I want to get your thoughts now after seeing another week of play from FlyQuest.
Well, as I've always said, I'm not saying their play is necessary, but it's literally just the players are boring. There's not a lot of hype
Okay.
around the organization. It's the organization's existence is boring. Like I
mean, they're even playing. It even looks like they're playing in their bedrooms. Like at least the rest of
they must be playing together at least in like a big.
I don't know.
Like,
how are they? Because if you look at it, I mean, they're literally got beds. Behind
yeah,
them.
I mean, you're correct. I can't fathom if they're just using Discord or something to do their plans because that's impressive.
Yeah.
But what I think about Fly is like the thing is like we can't easily forget they almost lost to EG. It was a 3-2 and it was not a pretty 3-2. Like one series a team does not make a team, and thankfully because we have double Elam we can see like a TSM that gets 3-0'd versus a TSM that looks healthier in 3-2s GGS, right? This can happen over and over, and I think the biggest problem is that FlyQuest just has a big jungle difference, like a big enough jungle difference in style and also just skill to beat Liquid. I think Fly is a good team. I think they actually have a decent matchup into TSM because both TSM and Fly both are pretty good at early, kind of do in the mid game, and then they kind of figure it out late. Like I think Fly is just better at it currently. Like they've shown to be better at it. They have less inconsistency, relatively speaking, and biggest thing is their champ pool in this meta is less flawed than TSM's and also Liquid's. So like if Double can't play Caitlyn or can't play, if he doesn't get Caitlyn or they can't prio Caitlyn,
he hasn't played Caitlyn well though. Up to this point.
It was banned against him a lot.
Sure.
In that last, to be fair. So,
but what he has shown, he hasn't played it well. I don't think he has.
When I watched,
I can tell you he hasn't.
The LEC and I watched LPL. Like I watched those Caitlyn's. I was like, wait, you can just run people down and just like literally start shooting their heads. Like what did they do? Like they actually looks worthless in comparison.
Yeah.
That was not the case. Although Tactical played really well too on this, except he forgot to trap a TP again. So again, I don't know,
that's true.
Is trapping a TP like taboo or something? Because I don't understand. I'm like, oh, that's a bad
we don't
TP
do that here.
From Macaulay here on
Apparently
Jensen.
not.
Oh, never mind. There was or not Jensen, whoever who was using it, and then it's like, nope, no punish. Okay. So yeah, I think Fly is still looking good. They clearly know what they want to do, but their ceiling is like not as high as Liquid still in my mind. So I think Liquid still has a good shot. I have faith that the support staff will figure out the draft portion of it. I just have no idea what Broxah will do. And I'm basically scapegoating him at this point because I've defended the man for a very long time and he hasn't shown up yet. Like if the guy with this much veteranship, like who's been to World Finals, can't show up in a regular NA playoff series, I don't know where I'm supposed to believe in him. So that's a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I like what you said. I think that they do have a higher skill ceiling because obviously they have really great players. Mitchell shaking his head no. But, I think that's what I tend to do against FlyQuest. I tend to look at the other team and go, yeah, but this team on paper looks better. And I think that's still the case. I think on paper, Team Liquid to me looks like the best team, but I cannot deny what FlyQuest is doing. All right, Mitch, I'll let you talk. What you got to say about it?
But how can you say another team has a higher ceiling than FlyQuest? They're literally called FlyQuest. They fly in the air higher than all the other teams.
How did I know you were going to take this
They're
angle, Mitchell?
soaring to a world championship, guys. We're going to Worlds. We're winning the whole thing. We're flying. It's
Liquid already
FlyQuest,
has world
guys.
champions on the roster, so we don't even need to fly. We're already there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get it, man. I wouldn't expect anything less from Mitchell. Of course, he's got to respond. Defend your team, man. That's cool. That's cool. But hey, look, I think either way, it's gonna be. I'd like to see, again, whether they play TSM or Team Liquid. I do think FlyQuest has good chances to win. I think they've already proven that they can beat Team Liquid. I definitely think they can beat TSM. So whether or not they have a high skill ceiling or not, I think they've shown what they can do, and that's all that matters. The results matter, and they've been showing that. So we all got that to look forward to. Either way, it's going to be a fun weekend. I'm sad that it's kind of the last games of the split, but what we'll do is next episode when we kind of recap it all and just talk about all that. I know you guys may have forgotten, but I still have all of our predictions from regular split, and we'll tally it up then, and that'll be like our kind of our finale to see who's actually won our predictions for the entire split. But before we go, just one last thing just to touch on in other news. Is kind of way off the left field, but Immortals have released a whole bunch of players, and this team was just going through a lot of weird stuff this split. They were not good, but they released SOAS, they released Ica, they released Altec, Gate. I mean, it's a lot of stuff going on. So I just wanted to get quickly your thoughts. Let me start with you, Kevin, on Immortals. What you think of the move? Just kind of maybe posture what you might think they will do for the next split and how they get better.
I mean, it's about time. I respect teams for giving it more than one split chances to players and even staff, because one split a team does not make, and that's great. But clearly, Echo's terrible for most of the season. He was at like 11th best mid laner.
Yeah.
Generously. Altec, I don't know. I thought he was okay, but maybe he just doesn't fit the team, especially when they have Apollo on contract. Like, why do you need two decent AD carries? Especially when Apollo's better with Hako. And then, like, just going down the line, like, SOAS, unfortunately, he just hasn't been playing well. I don't think the replacements necessarily were that great either, but, like, if you're going to build your team around Xmithie, Apollo, Hakuho, maybe Insanity, I don't know who you're going to use, that's fine. That's a start. Immortals is actually a reputable organization. Like, outside of League, and even back in the day in League, they were actually a pretty elite org. And yes, this is a different version of Immortals, sure. But like, they do have aspirations to be like 100 Thieves tier in the LCS, I think. So I'd like to see him pick an actual coach this time, or a GM, and not put like Zabutin on it.
I mean, I think you're right.
Don't have as much faith, unfortunately, in people like that who don't have as much endemic knowledge or
skill. But I mean, the thing is, what's nice too is it does free. I mean, I think the big outcry about Ica was that he was also an import. And you're just like, if you're going to import somebody, they better be freaking good. At least with Ryoma, we've seen improvements. And I watched the latest 100 Thieves episode, and he was like breaking down when they lost. And it kind of felt bad for him because, I felt bad because he improved. But either way, I think it's an import slot gone. Now they kind of have options, what they want to do. So either they get an import, but make sure that this import is actually really good, or they find someone domestically like Insanity and try to build him up. But what are your thoughts on the whole situation there, Mitchell?
This was a long time coming, guys. They were real bad. Ica was bad. SOAS he was tweeting in the middle of a game. Like, come on, man. Where's your head at? I don't know. Like, Immortals is gonna have to do a lot to impress me, right? Like, I like what they have on the roster now. They have Insanity and Alorum. Really, like, we don't know what they can do, right? They're rookies. They're put into a really bad situation. So, like, you gotta give them the benefit of the doubt that, this is their first time on stage, and they actually played okay, even though they didn't win a lot. But, like, I'm curious to see where they go. and Smithy, of course, being a mainstay on the roster is going to be great. But when I look at this team, like the 5 that it is now, with like also Apollo and Hakuo, I don't know. I don't see them making playoffs next split either. Honestly, spring split, no, I don't think they're going to make playoffs. So they're going to have to. They need a really good coach. Like I think the coach is going to be a big deal because they clearly have good pieces. Their problem is just like they don't actually win games, right? Like you see Insanity pop off on late game carries, and then they don't win the game. Like so, it's they need good coaching. Yeah, that's it. I hope that we just stop with the imports, stop wasting our money, wasting our time. Let's just like, what's the point of getting an import when honestly you get an academy player and they're just as good, maybe better, and like way cheaper? Because we're just inflating our salaries, we're wasting time, we're getting all these big names that don't do shit. Like let's just chill with the academy players, take it easy, be smart about our resources. And give him a chance because, like, Tactical was probably the best player to play in playoffs so far right now. He had the most pop-off performance. He was the most consistently good ADC. And he's a rookie. He's NA talent, you know? And there's a bunch of them hiding in Academy. If you watch the Academy finals, Cloud9 has, like, 5 star-studded Academy players on their team. Actually get them on LCS rosters.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point, and we've mentioned this before. The whole community's mentioned it before. Like what we've seen from this split or this season, I would say, is that academy players are good. Like I know it is the lesser league, right? But I think the fact that we've seen some exposure now, or at least people who never watch, like I never watch academy, right? But seeing some academy players play in the LCS and not suck. I'm like, wow, they're actually pretty good. Like, it's pretty cool. And it's led me to actually watch some of the academy games where now I'm seeing certain players that stand out. And I do like the fact that it is our own homegrown talent and like developing them. And let's see, you know, on the cheap, like, let's see if we can actually build them into something great. And we're seeing some fruits of that again. Johnson, you know, we're seeing Tactical, like you said. And so hopefully we're going to get to see more of that in splits to come. Either way, I think, I agree it's a good move. But I do think they still have a long way to go before we see them really make some moves in the NALCS. Alistair, do you have anything to add with the whole Immortal situation?
No, I don't. I basically agree with everything that was said, especially with what Mitchell said about just stop bothering with imports. I mean, you look at everyone always hypes up, you know, Doublelift. Oh, he's the best North American player. Well, how are you going to get more Doublelifts if you don't give them the chance?
Give them the chance,
I mean, it's just stupid reasoning. Like, oh well, we don't want to play them because they might not be as good. Well, so you're gonna pay 5 times as much for someone who's probably just here for the paycheck and is not really gonna try. Like it's foolish.
And I think
why are you gonna play $2 million for Bang when you can try out Alorum?
And I think we've gone to the point.
Sorry, Huni.
I think we've gotten to the point
down there, but
for definitely not. But I wouldn't. I think we're at the point, hopefully, in North America where we finally realize that just because they're from Korea or from Europe or from, you know, even China, whatever, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to pan out, right? We've seen enough of that. Like it's worked out with some, like some players. Obviously, Impact, you know, has worked out for a long run. Bjergsen, when he first came, he's worked out super long run. He's NA now. Like we claim him as our own. But I think Core JJ. But look, I think we've been around long enough now where I think slowly but surely the infrastructure is starting to kind of flower and blossom, where we do have the systems in place where we can develop our own talent. There are players in North America where it's being developed, you know, in collegiate and, you know, academy and that sort of thing. And so hopefully that will continue and it'll just continue to get bigger so that we don't have to resort to getting big names. And I think LCS is also at a point where it's popular enough now where before you wanted to get these big time players because you wanted NA to have representation, right, in Worlds. But I think we're past that point now to where I think we're going to be proud of NA no matter who we have. And even though we and kind of not laugh, but we laugh with our teams as they fail miserably in Worlds, but it's us, it's ours, and we want to see them do well. And I think it's going to be okay to where we don't have to just import, people from other regions just to try to make us
It's like
stand in
American
Worlds.
soccer at the World Cup. We'll
Yeah.
cheer for them every time. Even
Every
if they lose
time!
to Tobago and Trinidad or whatever they
man,
lost to.
Whatever.
Obviously, how could American soccer beat two countries at once? No,
Two
anyways,
countries at once.
that meme kills me.
Yeah.
One thing, real quick thing. I have a friend who's challenger who played with and against Tactical a lot because he's also an ADC main.
Mhm.
And he said back in the day, like Tactical was like good, like quite good, but he was like nowhere near as good as he was now. Like he
Mhm.
definitely leveled up in the academy scene, and like it's kind of a shame TSM didn't keep him or Johnson. Like I don't know where in
Two
their
good
head
talents right there.
I mean, I give TSM Academy
hurts.
credit for
They got
developing
spent.
them to
Yeah.
some extent at least, right? Because they must have gotten good partially there, if not mostly there, before they went to TL and Dig Academy.
Mhm.
So like, I don't know what TSM was doing. I don't know how they didn't see that was a talent, but they're clearly doing well right now. Well, not
Yeah.
as much on the Dig side, but not because of his own play. Like the
But
man's
people
doing well
still
under
already
the
know.
tutelage of Afro.
People still recognize Johnson as being good. Even though Dignitas hasn't succeeded, I think it's fair to say that people recognize Johnson as a up and comer, a bright spot on that team. So I mean that's good enough to just know that he's that good. But yeah, it makes sense. Like TSM, man, 2 ADCs possibly that could have been. I think we would love to have them on our team. So, but yeah, I think you're right. I think it definitely is nice to see that.
Well, I do have one hypothetical for you guys. What do you think's happening with Sven? Because he comes to North America, leaves G2. G2 becomes like one of the best teams in the world. Goes to
Ooh.
TSM. They don't go to Worlds for the first time ever. Then this next year, then goes to Cloud9. They don't go to Worlds for the first time ever. So is he going back to Europe? Like what's happening with him? Because he doesn't look. You're not muted. You're still
Yeah,
muted.
I want to hear what Mitchell has to say here.
Yeah, I don't want him. Get him out. Get him out of my
I agree.
region. Get him out. He's bad. He chokes. Like, the man can play well for like 3 or 4 weeks, or like when it doesn't matter in Spring Split, and then he chokes when it matters, man. He chokes Game 5 against Team Liquid. He runs it into Skarner. He chokes in playoffs in the last year. He was the reason. Sven and Mithy were the reason TSM lost their first best of 5 in like quarterfinals against Clutch Gaming. He got hooked by Hakuho over and over again. It's Sven. He's the problem. I'm sorry, bro, but you gotta play better. You claim you're the best in the West. You have such a huge brand and name. You talk so much crap. You emote during games. And then you end up like this. Get out of my region. I'm done.
I like.
I've never been impressed with him.
Yeah,
I never have.
I think it's definitely telling, and I don't want to put all the blame on him, but it is kind of, you can't deny patterns that you're seeing, and it is kind of rough that it's coming off of the C9 not making Worlds again, another team that he's been on that hasn't, the team hasn't made it. So who knows? I mean, did you have any thoughts on that, Kevin, on the Sven situation?
I've been impressed with him when he was on OG as Niels.
But other than that,
Or was it OG or was it also just OG too? But anyways, he's such a weird character because just like in real sports, like there are players who during the regular season, like this guy's god, like he's such a performer, he's so consistent, he's like amazing, he just always plays well, and I think Zen fulfills that role more or less. Like he just did his job. He was never like a liability during the regular season. He had
Mhm.
games where he popped off when he needed to. Like he was a very good AD carry in my opinion. Was I impressed?
I
No,
disagree.
but I thought he was fine for what C9 needed him to play during the metas they needed him to play. Like he did fine for the most part. But his biggest X factor issue for him is like when it matters, like I have so little faith. Like I have never seen a single player at least in NA who can consistently just like lose a series by himself.
yeah.
And like some people will lose a series by himself, but they will have a lot of plays that like mitigate that. Where they're like, okay,
Mhm.
for every play that Jackie Love ints a whole game away by himself, this man probably has won 3 games. And like
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll take that. Like if this guy
Mhm.
flashes forward and he knows what he's doing most of the time, like the one time he messes, it happens. when I watch this guy play, like it's like the
It's
I
the
don't know.
consistent
How many
throw.
times? When's the last time you remember Zen just winning a game by himself?
Yeah, you're right.
Without like literally everyone just like
Yeah.
playing supports and they were already ahead anyways in laning phase. Like
Yeah.
I just don't recall. He just kind of exists.
It's a good point.
That's always been my issue with Sven is he feels so extremely mediocre. Like he
Right.
doesn't go out and try and make the plays that he should be trying. Like I'll be honest that I know this is a fairly extreme example, but what Tactical did in game 4, Sven, I honestly think Sven would have just sat in base
Yeah.
and just waited for respawns. I don't think he would have
I
even
mean,
tried
I can't think of an NA ADC that could have pulled that off.
I
pretty
can
sick.
I mean I think there are some that would try it. I'm not saying they'd pull it off.
Okay, that's fair.
I think I think it was a 1 in a million play. I mean, if he gets hit by anything there, he dies, and with how close he was to getting hit by Braum Q,
yeah.
Oriole, like everything, it's a 1 in a million play. But Sven just never goes for them. Even
Yeah.
if there is a possibility, he just feels like he just sits there and he plays AD carry and he's just kind of there.
Yeah.
His team is good, so he's good. His team
Now,
is bad, so
I
he's bad.
think
He just doesn't do much.
I can definitely agree with you. I like the term extremely mediocre because
Extremely
even though he did have good stats last split, it really was hard to say he was the carry, right? Like we all knew it was Blabber, like doing, kind of making the plays here, and even Licorice to some extent. And
It's easy to not die if everyone's dead. 'Cause they're useless.
exactly, yeah. And so, I mean, I think I could see that, but yeah, I mean, whether or not he is mediocre and the cause for all these teams not making it to Worlds, I guess we'll have to wait until next year because they're just chilling for now. But is there any last thoughts that you guys have before we wrap the show up? Are you guys good? I mean, I think we're ready to see the finals. I'm ready to see how it
Just
plays
one
out.
last time, because they're not going to Worlds. Told you Blabber was not good enough.
Ooh, you knew
That's
he-
what I've been saying. Hey, Kevin, I've been with you.
You joined
I've been with
partway,
you.
so yes, I'm
Yeah.
glad we agree on this. But Spring Split was a hard.
I mean, I've been
split for
saying
me
about
because-
C9 in general.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fair. I mean,
But yeah,
Blabber,
Kevin, yeah.
admittedly, was like the best jungler NA has ever produced during Spring. Like in that meta, like if this meta was what they were going to Worlds with, I would be like, C9's probably gonna get to like quarter semis. Like
Yeah.
he's very good when he's good. But this guy's like he's like a super one trick in terms of his style. I can't bear to watch this man play jungle when it's not something he's comfortable with. It's so frustrating. I don't know how C9 fans feel about this. Like, I wish we had like a hardcore C9 fan on the cast, just so we could like
we'll have to
hear
recruit
what
one
they
then.
feel. When
Like,
they see
look,
this
if you're a
when this man
hardcore
level
C9
1
fan,
invades, I lose a little bit of my soul as a jungler. I'm like, oh
That's pretty
god,
funny.
there's no safety. If I climb to top 200, I will not be safe because
oh
he's
my
up there.
gosh. Well, look, if you're a C9 fan, let us know because we'll have you as a guest spot here, and you can give us your understanding of why this man does what he does. But Mitchell, what'd you have to say?
Yeah, I actually have a theory, guys, because we know who our teams that are going to Worlds are, right?
Mhm.
And everyone's of the opinion that okay, we're probably just gonna all get screwed over at Worlds, right? None of us are getting out of groups. It's 4 LPL, 4 LEC teams, 3 LCK teams. We're just screwed. I have a theory though, okay, guys? Because if you actually look at history, last year. FPX, the world champions, they dropped a ton of games. They lost to Splice and J-Team from the LMS region in groups on their first week. Danwon Gaming, I think in the first game of group stage, lost to Team Liquid as well. And what these teams have in common is that it was actually their first Worlds appearance ever. These players had never been to Worlds before. And it's really nerve-wracking. They got nervous. They didn't play very well. I mean, I remember in the Damwon Gaming, Nuguri, he just like kind of stood in a bush and Impact just killed him. Like, I remember that, and I was like,
One
I
of the
guess
most
Impact's a beast.
Korean top laners.
Yeah, and so I have this theory, right? So you have Mad Lions and Rogues, rookie teams. So if an NA team, let's say FlyQuest, right, because I'm a FlyQuest fan, if they get in a group with, let's say, Suning Gaming has 4 rookies that have never been to Worlds. It's just Sword Art. And then they have Mad Lions, who only has 1 player who's also been to Worlds before, Humanoid. They got 4 rookies as well. You know, you come into week 1, you 3-0 them as FlyQuest, like that week. You just need one more game the next week. You're out of groups, right? You beat the 4th place team, the wildcard team. So you just need to take that one random game in the first week off of the fresh new players that have never been to Worlds, and then you 2-0 the wildcard team. You're out of groups, or at least you're in tiebreakers for groups. And then you got to hope, like, so let's say in that exact group, right? Suning, Mad Lions, FlyQuest, wildcard team. You get the 3-0 in the first week, and in week 2, you beat the wildcard team. But Suning, if they 2-0 Mad Lions, then you get out over Mad Lions, right? So that could happen in a number of ways, right? That could happen with LGD and Rogue too. That could happen with JDG potentially. They have a bunch of players who've never been to Worlds. Top Esports also has like all of these teams that have never been to Worlds. They only have a couple here and there. I mean, Top Esports has Karsa and Jaculov, so I don't think you're good luck with that one.
They're probably gonna be fine. They have Jaculov, Karsa, and Knight. Like, what is an NA team gonna do against that? I don't know.
Cry.
It's cursed.
Yeah, I think I
But there's enough options. There's a
Yeah.
lot of opportunities for wins.
There is
Honestly,
a possibility.
an LPL
but
or an LEC team might not even make it out play-ins. I don't know.
look, man. All we
They can
need
play
is a
against each other.
chance, man. We just need a chance, and gotta believe. Gotta believe, man. I think it could happen. But you know, it is unfortunate that you know, what is it, the VCS or whatever, they're not getting in. So I mean, that is kind of unfortunate, but
It would
you know,
have been
and
nice to see that aggression again.
Yeah,
They're
and thing
always very
is-
exciting to watch.
that's another thing to, you know, so I guess they're playing live. Is that correct? Will there be people there and stuff like that? So, because I mean, that's what I want to know, because we've talked about this before in, like, you know, with Double Lift, and how maybe because there isn't a live audience there, it kind of affects his performance, because maybe not having the crowd there. And maybe some rookies have, and we saw with the academy players, play really well. I mean, I want to give them credit, but also, could it be because they're not playing in front of people that it kind of eases their nerves? So while I'd like to think that these rookies will hopefully, you know, mess up, if it is not played in front of a live audience, maybe that kind of erases that, you know, that kind of rookie
Since they're
nervousness,
doing the bubble
right?
system like the NBA, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure there's no audience. At least not a big
Exactly.
one.
Yeah.
But-
So,
But
I mean,
we'll see.
either way, it's just still a lot of weight. I mean, it's Worlds, right? If it's your first time, it's still nerve wracking. But I think, again, it does remove some of that element when there's not thousands of people right around you. I mean, that's a big difference when you're filling out stadiums and you have to play in front of them. Like that's pretty nerve wracking. So to not have that, if that's the case, then
I just can't wait. Oh,
yeah.
World starts in 3 weeks. It's gonna be great.
I'm ready for the music. I've already heard, you know, the KDA one drama. It kind of sounds like the other one, but I don't care. I'm just ready for it. But
It's okay.
yeah, it's all right. Did you guys have any last thoughts before we wrap it up? I think that was.
I just want to flame the All Pro again.
the All Pro. Oh, God.
Zen is our All Pro ADC. I almost
Yeah.
forgot.
That's right. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
I just want to
anyways,
flame that again.
It is what it is, and I don't know. I
Sant-
don't know if I'll ever
Blabber was
understand.
above Santorin. Sven was number 1. Just.
Yeah,
Again,
not
when you're on the
pretty.
best team, it's easy to look good. That's just
Yeah.
how it is.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for us. I just want to say thank you guys again, co-hosts Kevin, Mitchell, Alistair, for always contributing their awesome insights. It's definitely going to be, it's been exciting gameplay. I really wish there were more playoffs, because the playoffs have actually been pretty entertaining for me, you know, maybe minus the first round, but ever since then, past couple weeks have been great. But if you guys have any comments or questions, feel free to email us at the allinpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at the allinpodcast. Thank you again for listening. Please share with your friends. If anybody likes League or likes the LCS, then definitely let them know about the podcast. But appreciate it. And until next time, enjoy your climb on the Rift. Try not to be too toxic. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.